Hello, and welcome to another episode of Recovery for the Narcissist podcast. I am your host, Dr. Eric Perry. If you haven't yet subscribed, make sure you do so you never miss an episode. For those of you who are regular listeners, you already know that this podcast is specifically intended to help you break the negative patterns of narcissistic behavior and tendencies, so you can live a healthier, happier, and more fulfilled life. In today's episode, I would like to discuss relationships and scorekeeping. The phenomenon of keeping score in relationships is more common than we might expect, and you don't need to be narcissistic to exhibit this unhealthy relationship pattern. However, having narcissistic tendencies and exhibiting narcissistic behaviors can definitely amplify this behavior and turn the behavior into something far more unhealthy. It is not uncommon for individuals who experience narcissistic tendencies to be highly attentive to detail, to a fault. Because individuals who experience narcissism can subconsciously be very critical of themselves, it is common that they will also be critical of others, even without realizing it. This ties back to the projection game. When you project the parts of yourself that you are unhappy with onto someone else, the other person becomes the focal point and target for the parts of you that is least acceptable. Refer back to my episodes on projection and projective identification. These concepts are very important for you to understand not only intellectually, but experientially. The more you review the concepts, the more likely you will be to notice them within your day-to-day life. That being said, if you are listening to this podcast, it is likely you experience narcissistic tendencies and behaviors. I want to start with, well done for being here and listening. This means that there is a high likelihood you are wanting to make a positive change in your life, interpersonally, and in your relationships. Don't wait until the people you love start threatening to walk out of your life if you don't change. It's like the gym. You don't stop working out just because you got in shape. You also work out in order to maintain your progress. Otherwise, you will end up spending more time trying to keep up with or stay ahead of the self-induced life stressors that could have been avoided. If this is where you are right now, don't worry. Just keep working on yourself. Listen and re-listen to these episodes. I've seen many individuals make the decision to tackle their narcissistic tendencies, and with guided support were able to make the changes not only that they wanted to see, but that their loved ones wanted to see as well. If you are like most individuals who experience narcissistic tendencies, you likely spend a good amount of time seeing fault in the behavior of others, and it is likely that you are unaware that you are doing it. It might not be comfortable to think about areas in your life that you are not aware of, especially since narcissistic individuals who exhibit narcissistic behaviors are actually very aware individuals. They are just aware only in certain areas. The world looks differently to you than it does to others. I do agree that narcissistic behaviors are harmful and should never be excused. However, when a person says a narcissistic person is evil, I feel it should be reframed as hurt, or even not trained or educated in healthy social behavior. This is your moment to prove that you can learn, grow, and ultimately change for the better. Back to the idea of keeping score in relationships. Wouldn't you say that the fault you see in others, at least sometimes, seems justifiable? Where you can maybe even have a third party validate that you have a valid point. One of my clients gave me permission to share this example, and I think it will be helpful to express what I'm trying to say. He once had a narcissistic rage episode over his wife refusing to see the importance of carrying her driver's license when she drives. He had a valid point, but the way he communicated his point led to an argument. She rejected his command, and I use the word command on purpose. He didn't feel like he communicated his concern as a command, but she felt like he did. Regardless of how he thought he communicated, the fact that she received it that way means that this is an excellent area for my client to work on his communication. It might seem trivial to have an argument over a driver's license, but in the moment, the narcissistic part of his mind felt invalidated, irrelevant, unwanted, and unimportant. Emotionally, his very existence didn't matter, because he felt like she was rejecting him, not the suggestion. Keeping score can happen subconsciously, and resentment can linger. These are the moments you want to be aware of so you can avoid negative emotional reactions and behaviors, especially if you're someone who exhibits narcissistic tendencies. Instead of keeping score in these moments, I want you to acknowledge the other person's point of view. It is important to accept that their opinion matters, even if your opinion differs. It isn't about being right in these moments. It's about communicating your thoughts and feelings and letting them communicate theirs. Think about it this way. If you really want the person to see your point of view, and seeing their point of view will help them see yours, it only makes sense to acknowledge where they are coming from first. Where there is pressure, there is naturally going to be resistance. By seeing their point of view and accepting it as their truth, you lessen the likelihood that they will resist simply to resist. At the same time, you are putting yourself in a better position to be heard and acknowledged as well. Now that's a win. It might be helpful to write this next suggestion down and keep it where you will see it, or re-listen to this episode so it really sinks into your consciousness. If you ever notice yourself becoming angry, irritated, or upset in the moments where you are trying to communicate, it's in those moments I want you to pause and ask yourself this question. What is my goal in this conversation? You will likely be in pursuit of one of 4 goals. The first goal could be to defend yourself or your point of view. The second goal could be to attack or criticize the other person. The third goal could be to express yourself and your feelings. And the fourth goal could be to try to comprehend and understand what the other person is trying to say. If your goal is not 3 or 4, to express yourself or to comprehend, and it is to defend or attack, then attempt to make the mental shift in the moment. If it is with someone you love and trust, let them know that you are working on this. They can even help to remind you if you forget. Like I always say, awareness is key when trying to overcome narcissistic behaviors and tendencies. You must pay attention to detail when it comes to your behaviors. This is what I would like for you to start working on now. Acknowledging the point of view of the other person and asking yourself, are you trying to defend, criticize, express, or comprehend? Overcoming your narcissistic behaviors really comes down to doing a handful of things really well. Right now, we are working on building a foundation, and then later, we will add more structures to the solid foundation that you are building. I want to take a moment to acknowledge each of you who have reached out to let me know that these podcasts have been resonating with you. I also want to let you know how extremely proud I am of you for doing your part in growing and evolving. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Recovery for the Narcissist podcast. I am your host, Dr. Eric Perry, and until next time, see you soon.